maybe the two biggest news stories, at least for a lot of our listeners, in the country, and that is Otani and Yamamoto signing with your baseball team, and then the Professional Women's Hockey League. Which do you want to start with first?
I will tell you the one time they ran into each other, you know, that crazy day before he signed when we're following the airplane that was supposedly carrying Shohei, and we were following it too. We had no idea what was going on. So the next Monday, I'm in Toronto on January 1 for our first game.
Right.
And I walk in the back, get into the building at Mattamy at Maple Leaf Gardens. First guy who sees me at the TV truck, he looks at me, points, "Hey, you're the guy who stole Otani from us." So that's happening in my life now. The next day, I was in for our next game at Boston. I was hoping I didn't get any Mookie Betts cracks, and I didn't. So I escaped that. Let's start with Otani. We knew, like everyone else in baseball knew, he'd be free this offseason, and we made plans to take our best shot when that happened. Fortunately, it worked out for us.
Did you have an idea of the maximum amount of dollars that you would spend, Stan?
I think we were, in terms of real value, we wound up right about where we planned, hoped it would be. The unique nature of the contract, of course, inflated the gross number, and we were fine with that. But it was a little bit of a shock to the system when we first had it laid out for us. We understood immediately that it would work for us, but we also knew the significance of it in the eyes of the public and the media.
Does he have to be a pitcher in the not so long term in order for this to be economically viable?
Well, I think for us to realize maximum value, he does. But, I think if he's an MVP caliber hitter, which he has been in his short career, sure, that would satisfy us as well. But we definitely did this with an eye toward him doing both. And we see no reason that won't happen. Our doctors, who just happened to be his doctor, also assured us of that, or at least they feel strongly about that. And so we're very comfortable thinking he's going to do both again by next year.
So you mentioned that you were following the plane as well as everybody in Toronto was. But surely by that point you had an indication that they were making the decision. You didn't read it on social media like the rest of us, did you?
Yeah, we did.
No, seriously.
Yeah. We absolutely did. We knew what his timetable was. He laid out for us a few days ahead of time how he was going to do it, when he was going to do it. We wouldn't be given any heads up ahead of time. At the end, we did get a heads up. It was 1 minute, 60 seconds before he made his announcement. We always felt good. And I will tell you from the start, I felt strongly that we could wind up with him because I thought, from all things considered, we were the solution that made the most sense for him, the most logical landing spot. So I always felt good about it. But that day, we had no heads up what was going on. We were in touch with the agent. Agent was telling us, this is part of the process. Don't worry about it. No, he is not on that stupid plane. But I have to tell you, we're told lots of things in negotiations, so we didn't know what to believe or who to believe. In retrospect, and I say this understanding its significance, the agent was entirely truthful with us at every step of the way. I was not prepared for that, okay? But in reviewing everything that happened, he was straight with us at every point, including when we would be notified. And we got the full 1 minute. It wasn't any half-minute stuff. We got the full 1 minute heads up, and that's when we knew.
So just sorry, Bob, how many times would you have met with Otani? I mean, there were the stories of the secret meeting with, for instance, for Toronto and Dunedin with Otani. How many times would your Dodger organization have been across the table from him?
I think it was twice. It was certainly once. It might have been twice, but it might not have been, because we were meeting so much with the agent more than with the player. We might have had some phone calls, but certainly once where we had a real opportunity to talk and discuss things. And now remember, we've met him in the past. We met him 6 years ago when we tried to get him to be a Dodger, and we've known about him for 10 years, since we tried to sign him right out of high school. But I think there was only one meeting here and a whole lot of phone calls with the agent.
Do you think of the fact that this guy's played his entire professional career like an hour from Dodger Stadium? Do you think that mattered to you or mattered to him?
I'm sure it didn't hurt, but I think everything mattered, Bob. We're the Dodgers. You've heard me say this before. We are the Dodgers, and that has appealed to many people for a lot of different reasons, for baseball reasons, for cultural reasons, for economic reasons. That's why I felt so strongly we were the best alternative. But I can't tell you what pushed us over the top. I do know he has a good relationship with some of our stars. And we've seen that be a very prominent since he has signed with us. He's fit right in. He's in our locker room frequently to work out, and been very involved in the planning for some community efforts and things like that. So at least so far off the field, he is as good as advertised. And I'm really looking forward to the next 10 years. Yeah, 10 years, 20 years, whatever it is, whatever.
If he had signed someplace else, say Toronto, obviously you'd think he would move. He'd maybe not go full time to Toronto, but he'd get a place here.
He wouldn't be commuting to Laguna. Yeah, like he might be doing now. Right?
Has he moved at all with you guys? Do you know?
I don't know. It's early. It's also the off season, so we don't know all those things. I think he has plans for him, but we're going to spend a month in spring training, only a month in spring training, before we go to Seoul to open our season. So it's a compressed schedule this year. I don't know everything that he's been doing because, as you know, I've also had my attention elsewhere for a lot of this time. And so I don't know all those details.
Have you heard from the IRS?
Not my issue. We know exactly how to deduct from players' paychecks, and we will comply fully with all of the laws that pertain.
Under the circumstances,
that was a lawyer's answer right there.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
A lawyer's answer.
I'm reaching way back.
At Columbia Law School came in handy.
Do you think is this guy going to be your DH, or do you think he'll play some outfield?
Well, certainly not this year. No, he will be the DH for sure. And if he doesn't start a day for a particular reason, I'm sure he'll be available to pinch hit. As long as he stays healthy, you should see him get 4 or 5 at bats every game, and that's what we expect. That's what he expects, and I think that'll be best case for everyone, especially for Dodger fans.
So he won't be in the outfield. Is that because of his arm?
Yeah, it's because we're just not playing games with his arm help. It doesn't affect his swing at all, I'm told. But we're not going to fool around while his arm fully recovers.
Understood.
It certainly doesn't hurt in getting Ohtani to get Yamamoto too. Is that kind of icing on the cake?
It is, but we love Yamamoto. I mean, we love Yamamoto, and we signed to a contract that I think proves that point.
Yeah.
He's going to be in our rotation. Exactly where, I can't tell you. He's still very young, even by major league standards, and he has shown so much in his young career. You don't get to be MVP and Cy Young 3 years in a row in the Japanese league without being extraordinary. So we're really happy about that. We have always had a large presence in Japan just because we're the Dodgers and because of our history. I think this is going to elevate that to a level unforeseen before or never seen before. And again, that's good for us, but it's also good for baseball, putting these two brands together, the Dodgers brand along with Ohtani's brand, and then throwing in Yamamoto and his growing brand. These are all good things for baseball, bringing attention to MLB in Japan like never before.
So yeah, that's a really good point, because so much of the financial part of this outside of the United States and Canada goes to Major League Baseball coffers as opposed to Dodger coffers, correct? So
Yeah,
not only did the Dodgers win, but the other 29 teams win as well.
yeah, it's TV, licensing, merchandise, things like that in Japan or anywhere outside of our home territory goes to Major League Baseball, and that's just yet another way we share revenue with baseball. So for sure, this is, I think, the best case for maximizing revenues for baseball. But I can't kid you, the major impact is for us here in Los Angeles and to LA Dodger fans around the world, which are a growing army of people.